everyone. My name is Emily Pickett. I'm the campaign director for the Vancouver Humane Society. And I just wanted to start by thanking you for joining me today for this great event. And of course, a huge thank you to Serene and to the Peace Group for organizing this and inviting me to take part. I'm really excited to talk to you about our work, and it's been great tuning in and learning from other organizations that are doing great work on animal welfare issues and humane education as well. So today I'm going to be talking about our programs, campaigns, and some of our humane education work. We do a lot of work on different animal issues, and I think that the issues themselves present kind of a great opportunity to turn those into sort of humane education pieces in whatever sort of community you're involved in. If it's, immediately within your school, in your classroom, in a daycare, in your workplace. So these issues can definitely work in all sorts of different areas within our community. So I just want to give a bit of an introduction for anyone who's not familiar with the Vancouver Humane Society. So VHS is a registered charity founded in 1984 with the goal of working toward a humane society for all animals. And our work aims to raise awareness of different animal welfare issues and to help empower individuals, businesses, communities, as well as levels of government to be part of the effort to create a kinder world for animals. I'm just going to try and change my screen a little bit here. There we go. It's a bit moving things around. Okay. So I'm going to talk at first a bit about kind of the range of different issues that we work on. Oops, sorry. So first, one of the main areas that I work on is the farmed animals area. So the treatment of farmed animals raised for food under today's industrial animal agriculture system is a major issue. We know that farmed animals are among the most directly impacted by human activity, with more than 830 million land animals raised and killed for food in 2019 alone. And our main concerns around this is that the vast majority of these animals are kept in really large numbers, confined in kind of cramped, barren, and unnatural conditions. And aside from the on-farm issues, there's also the issues of the long distances that these animals are transported. Transport is an incredibly stressful environment for farmed animals, and there's very little protection under the current regulations for protection from extreme heat, cold, which we know is characteristic for Canada. But we know that awareness has really been building about this negative impact of the industrial animal agriculture system on animals, and not just on animals, but also on the environment and public health. And a growing number of experts and a body of research is concluding that we really do need to, globally, we need to significantly reduce our consumption of animal products. And that's not only for the sake of the animals, but also in order to effectively address climate change, as well as the biodiversity crisis and biodiversity loss that we're seeing, and to sustainably feed the world's growing population a healthy diet. So in my next presentation with Rihanna from HSI Canada, I go into a lot more detail about kind of the plant-based food system, the reasons why we might want to transition a bit more, and the ways that we can do that in facilities and institutions that do operate food service. So if that's of interest, I definitely encourage you to stay tuned for that. We'll go into that in more detail. Another area of our work focuses on helping pets in need, and it's through our program that we call the McVitie Fund. And this program really supports pet guardians who are on low income in accessing emergency veterinary care for their animal. And this program is really unique because there are a lot of organizations out there that focus on helping stray animals or those that are in need of new homes, from provincial SPCAs to breed-specific rescues. So there's lots of other organizations to sort of fill that gap. But our program is really focused on another area of need, which is about keeping beloved pets in the forever homes that they already have, and keeping them out of shelters or unnecessarily euthanized simply because someone is, experiencing a period in their life with low or no income. So when, their animals fall sick or they become unexpectedly injured, for example, if your cat gets out and gets hit by a car, those animals need a safety net. and so that they can stay in that loving home. And that's really the focus of our companion animal program. So that's another area of our work. And then we also focus on the issues of animals used in entertainment. So for example, the use of animals in rodeos, horse carriages in cities, animals used in film, sled dog operations. The main concern surrounding this area of animal welfare is the use of animals in entertainment. Their well-being is often compromised for the sake of profit. So they may be forced to perform unnatural behaviors or be put in dangerous situations. For example, in the case of rodeos, many of the events such as calf roping, team roping, steer wrestling, they sort of revolve around the use of fear, stress, and pain to make those animals perform. And with horse carriages, the concerns were really related to the operation of these carriages in busy sort of city environments. They're next to unpredictable traffic. Drivers are just not, they're not familiar in this day and age with driving next to horses. The issue also of horses spending long periods of time standing and walking on unnatural hard surfaces and next to vehicle exhaust. So those are sort of kind of the main concerns that we have with that issue. And, in fact, a couple of years ago, there was an incident where the horses became spooked by a car horn, and that led them to take off down the Stanley Park seawall with a trolley full of tourists. And thankfully they didn't go off the seawall, but it was definitely a scary situation. And thankfully the horses were okay and the passengers were okay. But I think that incident really serves as an important reminder of how horses and city environments really just don't mix. So that's another sort of area of our programming and our humane and public education. And we also work on the issue of animals in captivity. So for example, zoos, aquariums, and one that people don't often think about sometimes is the keeping of exotic pets. And all of these really deprive wild and exotic animals of their freedom to behave naturally and to live in their natural environment, which ultimately leads to their physical and mental suffering as well. So even when they are bred in captivity, exotic animals retain that behavioral and biological needs that they have in the wild. And so they really can suffer when they're confined in these unnatural conditions. And on this topic, one of our main sort of things that we've done in terms of public education is we did commission a report to sort of look at this captivity related problems at zoos and aquariums. And we do advocate moving away from this model of captivity and really focusing on, genuine rescue, rehab, and release work, supporting sanctuaries. And of course, what's really important is focusing on the conservation of species in the wild and the conservation of their habitat. And we really do also advocate for animal-free exhibits that utilize new and emerging technology to help educate the public about wildlife and conservation. And a really fantastic example of this actually is National Geographic has an interactive digital aquarium of the future, they call it, in New York. And this aquarium really, what it does is it immerses guests in sort of the ocean environment through huge screens and like interactive floors that allow them to sort of, swim with whales in 3D, or there's an exhibit where you can play with virtual sea lions or navigate a kelp maze and explore coral reefs. So it's very interactive and without any use of live animals. And there's also an area they call the Hall of Explorers that includes educational lessons from prominent scientists and advocates about the threats that our oceans are facing and the importance about protecting them. And interestingly, the creators of the exhibit state that, instead of using captive animals, they use state-of-the-art immersive digital tech to enable guests to get that kind of up-close look at some of the ocean's largest and most interesting creatures at really like a true-to-life size and with scientific details. So it's really quite interesting when I've looked it up online. And they say that, this is the quote from them, they say, quote, "Instead of taking animals out of their homes, we welcome you to theirs," end quote. And I think that's just perfect. It just captures it really quite beautifully. So I just want to make sure I'm on the right one here. So I wanted to touch on how the work that we do incorporates like a humane education lens, with the goal of really engaging and empowering communities in advocating for the protection of animals. So these are sort of the first two that I'm going to kind of talk about are just sort of like general community education that we do, but they really can apply to any sort of context. If it's learning about these issues in the classroom or in a workplace or you know, any sort of grouping within the community, there's opportunities for us to learn about these and to advocate for changes for animals as well. So a really great example of this is of this sort of humane education and practice is the issue of anticoagulant rodenticides, which are rodent poisons that cause a slow and painful death for animals that ingest them. And they are also ingested, you know, often by non-target wildlife, such as owls and eagles. So not only are they inhumane poisons, but they really do threaten the wider ecosystem and pose a threat to pets and children as well. So, but as public awareness surrounding these rodenticides has grown, so too have public calls for banning these really cruel poisons. And in fact, the back-to-back poisoning of an owl in North Vancouver this past spring really has seemed to kind of reignite this issue in the community. And so Lucky, as the North Vancouver resident who found him called him, was successfully rehabbed and released on the North Shore following repeat poisonings, which was quite shocking to learn that he was that he was poisoned on repeat occasions. But his rescuer reached out to VHS after she found him and helped him, because she really wanted to share his story, and she really wanted to advocate for, you know, a ban on these rodenticides in North Vancouver, but also beyond. So she started her own petition, she reached out to local media, and she engaged with city councillors on this issue. From our end, we, you know, VHS wrote a letter to city council, and so did many other community members. And people were really learning about Lucky's story and realizing how important this issue is, became very motivated to get involved. And I think, you know, this community-wide effort contributed ultimately not only to a rodenticide ban on municipal property in North Vancouver, but there's this every day, there's this growing list of other municipalities throughout BC, you know, including Port Moody, Victoria, several other Vancouver Island communities as well, that have passed similar bans of rodenticide on municipal property. So this issue is really snowballing, and more communities are getting on board. And I think that this real life example showcases how communities that are engaged and empowered on animal protection issues can really make meaningful changes for animals. And then another powerful example of the impact that, like I said, engaged and empowered communities can have is a report that we did on whale and dolphin captivity as well. So this report we commissioned is called A Crumbling Case for Cetacean Captivity. And we commissioned this report in partnership with a group called Zoo Check Canada. And the report examined and challenged common claims that captivity is necessary for research and for conservation, and that it's also crucial for public education purposes. So I think this was really important, also sort of through a humane education lens, like, do we need to keep animals in captivity to perform humane education? And the report looked at 2 major aquariums in Canada and found that the majority of the research projects in general through these facilities were designed to actually deal with captivity-related problems, and that they actually provide little conservation value for actual wild populations of animals. And similarly, the report concluded that there is no compelling evidence that zoo and aquarium visits among the public are educational in any meaningful sense, and in terms of promoting conservation attitudes. So they may be a way to sort of pass time, but the report really found that no one was necessarily, there was no compelling evidence to show that people were leaving and you know, changing their behavior or, you know, promoting conservation attitudes. And so this report really has become a useful humane education resource for not just the public, but also for decision makers. So for example, when the park board considered and ultimately banned the keeping of whales and dolphins in captivity, this report was helpful in that sort of discussion of the issue and looking at all the different elements of it. And that happened following the death of 2 belugas at the local aquarium in 2016. And similarly, the report was quite helpful as well when the federal government was also looking at banning whale and dolphin captivity last year across Canada. So this is just kind of another example of sort of within that larger community, how we can, promote humane education through looking at these issues, and how decision makers or the public can really get involved, becoming educated and then advocating for improvements to animal protection. So in addition to our education efforts for the public and for decision makers, we do also strive to create learning materials that are applicable specifically to youth and in schools. And we're in certainly unprecedented times right now in the midst of a global pandemic. But for example, when COVID-19 led to a significant shift toward more online learning this past spring, we decided to create 2 digital resources where, whether it was teachers, students, parents at home with their kids, if they were keeping them at home and doing school at home, could learn more about wild and farmed animals through things like farm sanctuary tours or wildlife live cams. And this was really an opportunity for the public to kind of humanely get up close and personal with these animals and learn all about them, all while staying at home. And we really designed this because we did sort of see during the pandemic, people were trying to still connect, be online. And so we were seeing some resources that were still promoting animals in captivity and live streams of zoos and aquariums and whatnot. But we really wanted to compile something that would allow people to learn and connect with animals from afar, but in that humane way where they weren't, again, being kept in captivity. So this resource is available for download on our website, these 2 resources, so you're welcome to take a look. And again, they're really meant to be applicable to anyone and everyone, any age actually. And I've, for example, we shared the live stream in there for the Orca Lab, which is in BC, and it's a live stream where you can just watch out in the ocean and see when orcas come up to the beaches and rub along the beaches. And I love it. It's amazing. I have it on the background in my computer sometimes when I'm working and just listening to the sounds of the ocean. And of course, waiting to hear whales come by and then quickly tuning back in to see if they're at any of the rubbing beaches. But I think those are really great ways to sort of engage any age really with these issues and just sort of learn in a way that's humane and doesn't exploit animals in captivity. And another way that we sort of focus on providing humane education is through attending events, in terms of in regular times when we can be out in the public. We will attend events, we will table, we have done presentations as well with classes, and a lot of presentations to student clubs as well, and kind of helping them start up animal protection campaigns within their club organizations. And so this photo was from a previous event. It was called the Children's Animal Welfare Event, and it was held at Science World over the last couple of years. And it brought together, a variety of groups that work on animal welfare issues. And the event created opportunities for kids to learn about animal issues in kind of an engaging and fun way. So if, hopefully when things are better again and we can be in the public, events like this are great to bring classrooms to, just groups of kids. If you're doing an outing, it's a really great way to sort of just get a sense of what groups are out there, what they're working on, great ways for kids to just learn about these issues in a really great way. And so at this event, what we did, because a lot of our work is often sort of focused on the secondary school level, and this was a bit of a younger age group, we did create like a quiz on an iPad so that the kids could come up to our table and engage with the iPad in a fun way and, go through this quiz, do the questions. The questions were really focused on kind of animal intelligence and animal sentience. And I think for that age group, that was a great way to sort of start the discussion about animals and how unique and special they are, and how similar, wild animals are and farmed animals are to, our companion animals at home, and how they deserve our compassion as well. So all of that was really an effort to kind of help foster that compassion, empathy, and respect for animals in a very sort of engaging and inquisitive way for the kids. And it was really well received. And as you can see, the kids in the photo are keen to kind of gather around the table and participate in the activities. So that's another way that we participate in humane education. And I'd say kind of our main program that relates to humane ed is our plant-based plates program, which was formerly known as our Meatless Monday program. And it's kind of a main part of the work that we do at the secondary school level. So for just a bit of background, we launched Meatless Monday in 2015. And since then, we've supported close to 20 secondary and post-secondary schools, as well as hospitals, in featuring a veg special on their menu on Mondays. So that's kind of how Meatless Monday took form. We really focused on sort of adding something or introducing, a special on Mondays to get people excited about, rather than kind of taking everything off the menu. We didn't think that would be well received. So this kind of made it fun and like an add-on. And last year we relaunched the program as plant-based plates with the goal of really just expanding on the success from Meatless Monday and helping to improve access to plant-based options on daily menus. So a key part of the program involves working in partnership with student clubs, as well as teachers, school administrators, food service teams in the cafeteria. Often what this looks like in terms of starting, if we look at kind of the process, it usually starts with us, VHS will reach out to schools and to student club teacher sponsors and just let them know about this work. And if their clubs or any students are interested in learning more, we offer that we can come in and do a presentation to a class or a club just about our work in general and about plant-based plates. And so from there, if the student groups are interested in sort of bringing this initiative to their school, we'll support the clubs in then reaching out to their teacher sponsors to kind of discuss it further, as well as school administrators and the food service providers to kind of share the idea of the initiative and to explore ways that they can increase their plant-based menu offerings. And in addition to that, we really encourage not just changes to the menu, but working with student clubs in running their own awareness campaigns, kind of their own humane education campaigns within their own school community. And we do that, it's really a way to kind of help the students educate and empower their peers. And we've seen great success with that. And clubs have gotten quite creative in kind of doing their own outreach efforts. So, when Meatless Monday or plant-based plates is running in the cafeteria, sometimes the student clubs will do things like do a sampling of the plant-based menu options, in partnership with the food service team, just to kind of help create some hype around the options, and as an opportunity to kind of engage with their peers about, oh yeah, this is on the menu, and here's why meat reducing and eating more plant-based is really powerful. Trying out the menu items and just seeing what students like. And it's a great way for them to provide feedback to the cafeteria as well, to make sure that the menu items are actually sort of reflecting what the student groups want. And they've also done things like doing surveys for different menu ideas, and that's been really helpful for the cafeteria staff as well. They'll share plant-based facts and sometimes ask trivia questions over the PA announcements, and that's a really great way to just reach the larger sort of school community and in sort of a fun and trivia focused way. Or the big thing that I sort of learned is students were really, I guess, Kahoot was a big thing with this one school that was doing Meatless Monday. And so they would do these live trivia Kahoot sessions where they'd set it up in the cafeteria at lunch, and students could kind of tune in and participate live in these trivia sessions. And that was really kind of a great engaging and fun way for the club to sort of educate their peers about some of these issues in a really fun, inclusive, kind of like non-confrontational way. And meanwhile, for the food service teams themselves, we also offer support in the form of free recipes, marketing materials if they want to kind of put up posters and help promote new menu items, menu planning ideas. And we have also done a series of free custom culinary workshops for food service providers as well, to kind of help them try out some new recipe items before they put them on the menu, and kind of build their plant-based cooking skills as well. So I thought I would kind of just give you an example of this program in action. And so the great example of this is the Sutherland Secondary Sustainability Club that has been running Meatless Monday and now sort of transitioning to just getting more plant-based options on the menu daily. And they've done this in partnership with their school's food service provider, Omega Food, and with the support from their teachers, their school administrators, and from VHS as well. And ultimately, this kind of collective effort at Sutherland has led to the implementation and success of Meatless Monday in that cafeteria, as well as the expansion of Meatless Monday to other North Vancouver secondary schools where that same food service provider was doing food service. So he was keen to spread this sort of initiative elsewhere. And it ultimately led to students asking for those Meatless Monday specials to be added to the daily menu. They enjoyed these items so much they wanted to be able to have access to them every day, which was really exciting for us to see. And the club's strategy for their awareness campaign, so that we've got the menu changes, and then they were doing their own sort of humane education and awareness campaign. And what they sort of focused on was tabling, sampling, running the trivia contests. They did some giveaways. You can see in the picture they were offering a free meal, and they're doing a sampling. I think that was of the chickpea curry that was on the menu as a special. And what else did they do? They were sharing statistics during the PA announcements about the benefits of eating more plant-based meals, and as well as gaining feedback from students about the options that they would like to see added to the menu. The club was also very active in terms of reaching out to other teachers for their support. They quickly recognized that a lot of teachers were also purchasing meals from the cafeteria. So that was another group that they felt, they wanted to do some humane education of their teachers as well, and collaborate with them on ways that they can participate and support the club's efforts as well. And their club teacher sponsor, who has since retired, was incredibly supportive of the students' efforts. And I think that that's just worth mentioning, because I think the student groups that I've worked with that had a lot of teacher sponsor support were the ones that did the most and were very successful and very active. I think it was just really crucial for them to have that support from their teacher sponsor as well. The club was also in regular contact with the food service provider. So this was just kind of another way for them to raise awareness and make sure that they were working kind of across the full spectrum within the school. And so they were very good about, discussing with the food service provider what was working, what could maybe be improved upon. And this group was amazing. They also kept track of kind of the popularity of the Meatless Monday dishes as well. So they would, after every kind of Meatless Monday, they would touch base with the cafeteria staff and say, how many veg and vegan dishes were sold, and kind of kept this information in a spreadsheet, which was a really helpful way for them to sort of look back on the yearly campaign, for example, and see which dishes were the best, what items maybe would make the most sense to add as a regular item to the menu. And that was really helpful for the cafeteria, I think, as well. And in terms of VHS, we hosted a culinary workshop for Omega Food when they decided that they would like to work on incorporating plant-based options into their daily menu. So they actually kind of hand-selected a number of recipes that the staff wanted to learn how to make and to sort of test out together. And some of those dishes included a pad thai. They had a series of curry dishes. The curry dishes were really quite popular. Chickpea salad sandwiches, and I think there was a roasted vegetable pesto sandwich as well. So it was a great opportunity to just kind of hands-on, dedicate some time to really just trying out these different recipes and building some skills and considering some options to add to the menu. And the work by this Sutherland Sustainability Club has had a huge, like, they've had this ripple effect in the larger community as well, which I think is really quite exciting. So their group has been working on this for a few years now, but you know, their club's campaign was a really crucial part of getting a larger sort of Meatless Monday proclamation passed outside of the school community and into the larger community. And we got Meatless Monday proclamations were passed in the city of North Vancouver, as well as Vancouver, New West, and Port Moody as well. So this was a great way for that group to sort of share their Meatless Monday message across communities and sort of turn that humane education lens also outward outside of the school community and help educate decision makers too. And the club played a great leadership role actually in organizing an ambassador training for other students in doing sort of similar work in their schools. So, you know, they noticed, and I noticed when they were launching this Meatless Monday campaign and it was going so well that other students wanted to do the same. And the more that they were sort of collaborating together, the more other students would get excited. So we really decided to host this ambassador training to sort of bring those students together. They could talk about their interests in animal protection, ways that they could introduce initiatives like this into their school and into their clubs. And I think that peer-to-peer environment was really important as well. And really, ultimately, the club's efforts have just been a huge source of inspiration and motivation for other students, just leading to that kind of expansion of Meatless Monday to other schools throughout, you know, North Vancouver, but also across Metro Vancouver as well. And so one of the photo here on the right is the Sutherland Club also won a Civic Youth Award from the City of North Vancouver in recognition of all their hard work. So I think that they were really excited about that too. And again, that just shows the impact of what they were doing in their school and the impact it was having kind of in the larger community as well. And the club leaders presented to both the North Vancouver School Board as well as the District of North Vancouver Council about this work, about their Meatless Monday and kind of plant-based work, and ultimately encouraging both groups to also sort of take action, you know, at the school board and council levels in terms of meat reduction and food policy as well. So again, this is just a great example of humane education within the school community, but also outside and into the larger community as well. And yeah, like I mentioned, I just think this is a great example of humane education in action, you know, with, again, those sort of engaged and empowered youth, not only developing their own sense of compassion and empathy and respect for animals, but really working to bring about the change within their immediate school community and beyond. And for me, that's just been such an inspiring part of my work. It's been amazing working with youth and seeing how motivated they are and how dedicated they are to making change, and just seeing the larger impact that they can have has just been, yeah, really inspiring. And so our goal at VHS is to continue doing and supporting this type of impactful kind of community-based work. And really, as our tagline sort of states, to continue helping people help animals. And that's really what this work is all about. So that sort of concludes the presentation. If you're interested in connecting with me to chat about you know, introducing more plant-based options at your school or your daycare or wherever else in your community you may be or see opportunities, or any of this work, not just necessarily the plant-based options, but again, you know, the rodenticide issue is an issue that's in the community, but we can bring this into the school community and talk about these things, for example. So any of this, if this interests you, I'd love for you to get in touch with me at my email address is up on the screen. So emily@vancouverhumanesociety.bc.ca. And you can also check out our website for more information about VHS at vancouverhumane.ca, and to access those downloadable digital resources, learning resources as well. And as I mentioned, following this talk, I will be joining Rihanna from HSI Canada to go into more detail about our VHS's plant-based plates program, and sort of the motivations behind it and ways that we can sort of like tips for implementing it, as well as we'll talk about HSI's forward food program. So if you're interested in learning more about that, I would encourage you to stick around for that as well. So thank you again for attending and listening, and maybe we can take some questions.
Thank you so much, Emily. That was amazing. Yeah, we have a question.
You want me to stop sharing my screen here? Is that?
Oh, yeah, you can if you want to.
Yeah. Okay.
It's up to you.
Great.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have one question here for you. Do any other provinces follow the program you have running in Vancouver? I'd love to see this initiative like this in Alberta and of course across the country.
Yeah, so we at the Humane Society, at Vancouver Humane Society, are quite focused in BC, just in terms of our capacity. But as I sort of mentioned, Humane Society International Canada is a group that is doing a lot of this work as well throughout Canada. So I know they've done some work in Alberta, a lot of work out in Ontario and Quebec as well. So they would be a great group to reach out to. And as I mentioned, they are presenting, we're doing kind of our joint presentation next. So that would be a good one to tune into and to work with HSI as another opportunity. But you can certainly reach out to us, and we all work together and sort of support each other. So yes, the goal is to try to get these changes happening in schools all across Canada.
Okay, great. I just was wondering, you mentioned some of the examples are like chickpea sandwiches. Was there, from the survey that the students did, was there some food that specifically they found was the most popular and easy for other students to?
Yeah, I think in a lot of the schools that I've worked in, like curry dishes have been super popular. And there's so many different like varieties you can do as well. So that was, I think that's sort of the number one meal that I've seen across the different schools that students and food service staff have been really excited about.
Okay, great. Do you have any programs happening with schools since the pandemic began?
Yeah, so it's definitely been an interesting time in the midst of COVID. We are sort of, right now, we're really focused on kind of developing our resources to support schools for either, you know, if we're sort of in this continued stage for a while, how can we sort of support them more remotely? But also just kind of creating more resources for once we can be back in schools and working with students and food service teams directly. So we're really in kind of this development stage right now, but we are really also hoping to reach out to everyone and see how we can kind of support them for this school year as well. But I know we've kind of just been waiting a little bit because I know that the start of the school year has been really stressful for everyone, and just sort of everyone's finding out, you know, the new norm and getting settled. So our hope is, you know, our plan would be to reach out to student groups and teacher sponsors and wherever we can, just to see what the school year is looking like for them this year and how we can continue to support them now and into the future.
Great, thank you. So yeah, so no, you're not doing any online presentations or anything like that at this moment?
Nothing scheduled right now. Yeah, but hopefully as we sort of move through the year, we would love to do some of those.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Oh, Anna's asking virtual tours. So yeah, I don't think that you have a resource for virtual tours, correct? Like that's.
Yeah, I think in our farmed animal learning guide that's on the website, I think we've listed some examples of like farm sanctuary tours that you can do online. We don't have any ourselves, but I know you guys probably have some great resources through Peace as well for that sort of thing, I would imagine.
Yeah, we have a resource for different options for virtual tours, and with our discussion with Mike just a little bit earlier, he offered a couple of more in his presentation, which we'll add as well to our list on the website. So that was all done. Yeah, thank you, Emily, for this. I had a great experience working with you in increasing plant-based options at Capilano University.
Oh, thank you, Nadine. That's great. Yeah, I mean, that was a really great example too of, you know, Capilano started adding Meatless Monday, and that's actually how Sutherland sort of initially heard about it. And they said, oh, this is happening at Capilano. Can we do this at the secondary school level? Can you help us? And so that's an example of it, you know, just sort of snowballing. When one school does it and students get involved, others want to make those changes too. And it's really been a great process because I think, especially for youth, sometimes they feel like a lot of things are sort of out of their control, or they have to they'll write letters and encourage changes. But a big thing that I talk to them about in these presentations in schools is that this is a great way, a powerful way that you can change things within your own school community, right? We look at how we can be more sustainable, more humane and ethical in our work within our own school community. And they've just been really excited about that. And as Nadine mentioned, it just sort of goes from there.
Small steps and
get involved.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, we got another. So yeah, I just thought it would be fun to see an animal shelter. Thanks. Yeah, I don't know if there's any animal shelters doing virtual tours. I know sanctuaries do. I know there's a whole resource online options for different types of sanctuaries. So
yeah, I'm not sure about any sort of animal shelter tours at the moment, but I imagine I'm sure there's something out there.
Well, thank you so much, Emily, for your time and doing and we'll see you in like a little short while.